Hi, it's Cosmic Charles here, and I'm back with this quick deck of this pauper list that I'm calling White-Red Caw Blade. It's a little different than other lists that are running Barbed Batterfist, because I'm going all in on the sword synergy over here with Ancestral Blade and Great Sword of Tyr. I've also included three or four. I haven't decided if I'm going to include the Bogles one. Of some more competitive matches that I played in the queues, and one in tournament practice, but it was against a veteran, so I thought it was more of a. It would also be a nice showcase of what a competitive match might be like with this deck. Yeah, and also I've been having a lot of fun both building and playing this. I still prefer my Poison Storm deck, but I do think I may have finished building it, and at heart I'm a builder over a player, so I'd like to continue building. Anyway, I'll start with the deck tech now. So essentially, the reason to be running this deck rather than a traditional Bohr synthesizer list would be because of the Ancestral Blade, the Great Sword of Tyr, and the Barbatter Fist. And also, I guess, the Sacred Cat as well. I don't know if most lists run that or not. The reason to be doing this is because of Great Sword of Tyr. It is amazing on token-esque strategies, and you create a lot of tokens between Ancestral Blade, Barb Batterfist, Glinthawk, Core Skyfisher, and Sacred Cat. They all kind of work together to create a field with a bunch of like random creatures, 1/1s, whatever. But what Great Sword of Tyr does, and this is almost like I think this is the strongest equipment in Pauper, at least in a vacuum. Of course, you can build some. There's some build around equipments out there as well. But essentially, for one white, you can equip this to a creature, and then whenever it attacks, it taps a creature and puts a +1/+1 counter on itself. So that provides evasion and also provides pump, similar to what you would see perhaps in a Rancor, though I don't know if trample counts as evasion. That might just be more considered to be reach. But it's in that area, so you can really manipulate combat pretty interestingly with Great Sword of Tyr. Another thing that I found really interesting was what I call, it's like a little, you can actually have a little sub game with the equipment costs, because you run different creatures that you can equip with different abilities. For example, Sacred Cat has lifelink and a bomb. Swift Spear has haste. Gingerbrute can be made pretty much unblockable, flying, and kind of play which one are you going to remove game type of thing. By stacking the blades correctly. See, while Blade only makes a 1/1, so it's the worst token producer out of the deck, it does help because you run Barb Batterfist, which gets +1/-1. So frequently, if you want to move the Batterfist over, you're going to have to either have an Ancestral Blade either down, or have a Great Sword and the creature having already swung with it once, in the cases for like Gingerbrute and Sacred Cat, or if you're trying to play around some removal. Yeah, so you have the classic Galblast, great reach, great removal. Journey, also pretty good removal. Sideboard is a work in progress. I don't really, like I said, I haven't really been. Right now it's working okay. I mean, it's pretty obvious what it is. Yeah. Oh, and one other thing. I was running a Springleaf Drum. I realized that should just be the fourth copy of Ash Barrens. It's actually pretty rare where a 3/1 split pans out. I found it in my experience. Doesn't mean never, but I found it to be pretty rare. All right, that was the deck tech, and hopefully I'll see you for match 1. Hi, it's Cosmic Charles here, and this is the first of the matches that I will show you in this video today. I recognize this player. He's a veteran. They're a veteran of the format, and they like to play competitive decks, and they play them well. So I thought this would be a nice competitive match, or the play would be competitive that I could show you. The match itself was in tournament practice. All right, and let's take a look at our opening hand. Unfortunately, there's only one land here, so I have to ship it back. This isn't really a one-land deck. It's pretty greedy with its mana. All right. And I need to send this back too. There's no land here. I run 20 lands, It's a little low for a deck like this, but I've also been experiencing flooding, so I'm trying to find a nice balance. And here we have my final mulligan. This hand is keepable as Ash Baron's plain, so I can get the colored mana that I need. And I believe here what I bottom. Well, let's see what I bottom. I bottom that and that. All right, pretty good. I guess I'm leaning towards more trying to do an aggro strategy. All right, so I guess I'll just press play and see how it goes. All right, there we go. He plays a Chromatic Star. I still had Springleaf Drum in this build at this point. And goes Kodoltha Rebirth, and I take this opportunity to get a mountain. It's looking like this. Yeah, this is Kodoltha. I play a Barbed Batterfist, not a very good blocker, and he, of course, has a Lava Dart, really getting his licks in. And he bashes in for 4. I land an Ancestral Blade. I'm just trying to get as much body down as possible, trying to get as much blockers, draw out some burn. So instead of going to my face, it goes towards my creatures. And now I can recur this Barbed Batterfist, which maybe should have been the Ancestral Blade because of his Lava Dart in the graveyard. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to matter. Yeah, and I concede here because that is lethal. That is 5. I can't block this, and I can't block that, and that takes me to... I can only block one of these, so that takes me to 5. All right, and hopefully we'll see you for game 2. For game 2. So let's just take a quick look at how I boarded here. So it looks like I boarded out my Monastery Swift Spears. I will do this in any matchup that I think is faster than I am. It doesn't do she's not very good at blocking. And instead I brought in my 2 copies of End the Festivities, an Electrickery, and one other thing. Ah, yes, my Crimson Acolyte. That makes sense. So let's see how that worked out for me. And check out the opening hand. Here, again, I need to mulligan. 1 Plains isn't going to do it. Much better. A little flooded, but the Sacred Cat is very strong in this matchup, especially when paired with the Greatsword of Tyr. So I'll just press play and we'll see how things went. I play a Sacred Cat, and he Lava Darts into Ancestral Blade, sorry. Reckless. I Embalm, and get a land. So as you can see, and he bolts my dude, and he gets 2 more implements down. Looks like he kept a slower hand this time. I land a Glinthawk, very good. I likely returned the Blade, yes. No, I returned the Synthesizer, and that was a wrong choice. So I feel like I should have brought... Oh, I'll pause. Yeah, I'll pause here. So I feel like I should have brought back the Ancestral Blade here in order to make more blockers. It was unfortunate that I didn't, because as you can see, I can't even play this journey right here. Yes. Again, I'm still new to playing the deck. But I do get to equip my Glinthawk, and he resolves the Synthesizer into a Reckless Impulse. I land my Experimental, Greatsword equip, swing in, and pause. And here we can see part of the power of Greatsword of Tyr. This is a 4/4, which means he'd need to have a Galv Blast to kill it rather than a Lightning Bolt. And I like it when his Galv Blasts go towards my creatures and not towards my face. So let's see how this works. He kills it. It's the right choice, by the way. It was just going to get bigger. And gets in for 3. I get a Galv Blast, flooding a little bit, but I do have the... I do get to Galv Blast his Monastery Swift Spear. And now, as you can see, this is what I really like about Experimental Synthesizer. With all of these equipments that are just hanging around, any token is great. You can just equip it up. And the Vigilance is very relevant in aggro matchups. So let's just press play here and see what happens. Okay, he cracks his synth for his own samurai. He's digging for a removal spell. Digging. And he doesn't find it, which is great, because that means this will need to be Galv blasted. And again, as you can see, the tier just gets rid of blockers here. And now this is actually a pretty interesting board state that he has. Let's see. Yeah, see, he chose not to attack here because he's at 10, and he knows I have Galv Blast in my deck. And here he has a very interesting board. He has 3 different types of creatures. So I have a lot of choices here about who to tap down. Typically, you want to tap down whichever one you want to kill. So whichever one you don't want to kill. You'd rather them chump block. But there's a prowess here, so I'm not quite sure which one I chose to tap or if I made the right choice. But let's see. I'll just press play here. I choose the Samurai because I want to kill the Swift Spear or the Blast Runner. He goes Rebirth. That's going to put a damper on my tapping plans, unfortunately. And I choose not to block because I don't want it to die. I get a Ginger Brew. Great build for me. Here we can see the Vigilance coming in handy. I have 2 blockers for Menace now. He decides to Lava Dart, so I just gain 3 life, and I take 3. And I get in again, flooding out pretty hard. But again, this is the power of Greatsword. I would be dead 1,000 times over without it. It's amazing just how much it can deal with. It's almost unbelievable. And there's the Ancestral Blade. All right, and that was the second game. The opponent scooped it up. Again, we're in tournament practice, so it's not. So while this opponent is a very good player and a veteran of the format, it's not necessarily going to be, analogous with competitive play. All right, and I'll see you for game 3. And we're back for the final game of this match, and we will see how I drew for my opening hand. I have to mulligan again, unfortunately. I don't know if I have the lands correct for this deck yet. I've been really struggling with having too many or too few lands, and I don't know what to do. If you have... I've already cut the Springleaf Drum, by the way. If you have any ideas about what I could do to improve the mana base, please tell me. All right, let's see. I really like this second mulligan. It's down to 6. I can freely bottom the Springleaf Drum and start my token production or my card draw with Glinthawk. All right, I'll just press play and see how it went. Our opponent leads on Star. I lead on Plains. Going to cycle this Ash Barrens for another Plains, probably. Playing around Artifact Destruction. There's Sacred Cat. I play Boros Garrison into a Plains. Now here he starts digging, which scares me that he's looking for Raise, but instead he just uses Lava Dart. I Embalm immediately, and I play my Ancestral Blade. He leads on the Synthesizer into Blow Up the Synthesizer into Swift Spear. Very good. And I don't block because he has the Lava Dart. I then go Synth into another Cat. Pause. Yes. And then I can play the Great Furnace to gain Metalcraft and bolt the Swift Spear as well. So that was a pretty good hit off of Synth. I'm not going to play the Glinthawk here. This isn't that low to ground of a deck. I still need to get the value that I can out of either Synthesizer or possibly Ancestral Blade, but Ancestral Blade's less appealing with all these tokens, I think. All right, and I'll just press play. I choose not to attack. I am not the clock in this race. And he plays a very good draw. Another, wow, that's very powerful. Hopefully doesn't have too many spells, though. Alright. And I draw another lamb, but I can try and get some value out of this synth. To another synth, great. Into a plains, not so good. Into another synthesizer, and a cat. That was a little lucky on my part. Okay, Quip. And he goes Prowess. Oh, wow, into a Blast Runner. Gal Blast my cat, and he swings in for a bunch. So I eat a token and just chump chump. I don't want to take too much damage here. Now I can journey the Blast Runner. Oh, yes, I will pause here. So the reason why I journeyed the Blast Runner over these Prowess creatures is for a few reasons. So, one, he has 0 cards in hand. Yes, he has a draw off a synthesizer, but that costs 3 mana. So it's unlikely he's going to be able to trigger Prowess very much. And the other reason why I did so was because I'm going to try and chump block here. I do have a token production, and Goblin Blast Runner is not very good at chump blocking. All right, press play. And I embalmed the cat. Another rebirth, opponent going very big field into another Swift Spear. He's probably hoping for a spell there. Okay, he plays with the Swift Spear, gets in. I double block, and I think that's too much, and I win. Again, it's tournament practice, but short but sweet. All right, and I'll see you again for the next match, which will be in the queues. And here we are for the second match of this video. This was against Affinity, and in the queues. All right, and let's see my opening hand. Okay, so there's no red mana, which is a pretty big problem, but it does have 2 lands, a Glinthawk, and an Ancestral Blade, so I can use the synergy between these cards to create an almost Squadron Hawk-like effect. All right, and let's see what happens. I play a Plains, and they play Silver Bluff, and I lead on the Blade, creating a 1/1 token. They go Ichor Wellspring, and I get in for 2, play my Hawk, and return the Blade. And just like a Squadron Hawk, I can now create my own army of 1/1s. All right. And now I get in for 5. I cast the Sacred Cat, and I pass turn. And they Deadly Dispute, drawing a lot of cards there. Okay. And I get in with everything, and notably they've tapped out of Metallic Rebuke, so here I can... Oh, they bolt my Hawk, but it's okay because I can recur the Blade. So that is 1, 2, 3 tokens I've gotten out of my Squadron Hawks so far. And I get in with everything. I'll pause here. So I decide to swing all out because that's the only way I see winning this game, and they're already at 3. Yes, I can lose because of this. Affinity can be quite explosive, but I believe I've already seen 1 Gal Blast, so hopefully I'm not at risk. And I'll just press play. And they bolt my Hawk. I can play another one and return my Blade. And now I have a 1/1 in hand. They go Ichor Wellspring and Deadly Dispute. And they get in? No, they don't. They choose to block. So I get in with everything again. They block the Lifelinker, they bolt the Hawk, and they take 3. I can play another Blade, the same Blade, and pass the turn. Really want to draw red mana, for obvious reasons. Because I have 5 red cards in hand. They go Kenku Enforcer, and they get in for 7. I take down to 16. And I'll pause here. So I choose to play the Greatsword and have my field wipe. And yes, it's the only thing I can do in this situation. But it also means that should I draw an untapped red source, and they had nothing in hand, and they also would have to only have 1 blocker back, I can deal 3 by equipping Monastery Swift Spear with both the sword and the blade. So that's 3 total. So let's see what happens. And I'll press play. Alright, they wipe the field except for theirs. And they get in for 7, taking me down to 9. And I'm dead on the backswing. Unfortunately, I just draw a pretty ancient den. And I concede. Alright, I'll see you for game 2. Hello, and we're back with the second match of the second game of the second match of the video. And I thought I'd just show how I boarded first. I took out 2 Swift Spear and 1 Blade for a Crimson Acolyte and 2 Gorilla Shaman. Let's see how that worked out. We'll take a look at my opening hand. And I mulligan, because it only had 1 land. This, however, looks much better, and I'll likely bottom a synthesizer here, because I have multiples, and I would rather have creatures. Alright, and let's see how it happened. I'll press play. There's the bridge. A bridge from our opponent, and I'll land the cat here and play a mountain, not playing the Gorilla Shaman yet. I choose to play the Shaman and blow up the seat, where they then respond with a Deadly Dispute. And I really want to blow up that treasure token. I get in with my cat. The opponent bolts my monkey. I may have been a little too hasty on that. I resolve a synthesizer into another synthesizer, into a cat, and into a blast. That's a really good run. And they, for some reason, negate the blast instead of the synthesizer. And I get in for 1. There's the star into Crackland Shaman, probably going to wipe my board. And I get in for 2, and I gain 2. And there's Fisher, bouncing synth, into Blade. Nice. And our opponent decides to wipe the field now. Core Skyfisher doing their best Hawk impersonation with Ancestral Blade. And I attempt to a bomb. Oh yes, I'll pause here. So here our opponent makes a mistake. I'm now about 90% sure that you can't counter and bomb, because there it looked like they floated mana to cast a Metallic Rebuke. And then there's nothing for them to target, so here it's just floating. So I choose to punish the opponent and just move to the second main phase. Alright, and I'll press play. Oh, yeah, there we go. And the Core Skyfisher gets in. And there's a Barbatterfist into a Kinku Artificer. And there's the Drossfire Bridge. And that was a huge draw, so let me pause here. So Great Sword of Tyr gets around Instructability quite nicely by tapping. And here he has 1 red mana open. So he can either tap this to kill this, now if he chooses, so I don't get the Great Sword activation, or tap this to kill this, I suppose. So he does have Galv Blast, he has his options. But it's getting tapped either way, because of this Great Sword. So, I will press play. And I'll swing in with everything. I like trading with my tokens. And 5, he's down to 8. Resolve some makeshift munitions, not that scary because of my high toughness. And he makeshifts my Sacred Cat. And I can't swing because it's indestructible, but I can go another Fisher into Barbatterfist. It's a 2/2, and I mean, yeah, he can just kill it, ping it for 1. Maybe it was the wrong choice. Alright, there is Chrome Star, and he concedes. And that was game 2, and hopefully I will see you again for game 3. Game 3 of the second match. And I kept the board the same. And let's see my opening hand. Alright, and I think that I can finally keep 7. I believe this is the first time that the mana's worked out. Alright, and I will press play and see how it went. There's a bridge into bridge. followed by a Wellspring. Very good draw. The Barb Fist is a much better clock than the Blade. I try to get him for 3. He disputes, and he Galv Blasts. I take the opportunity to land a Blade. Keep the pressure on. Our opponent lands munitions. Not that scary, because again, 2-2. There's my Greatsword. And now I'm making him spend a Galv Blast on that. I don't think he's going to want to sacrifice 3 artifacts. And I return the Ash Barrens. He blue blasts my Barbed Batter Fist into an Enforcer. Little scary. I swing in, and I tap the Enforcer, and I get him for 4. Ah yes, I'll pause here. So I play the Synthesizer here instead of the Galv Blast on his Enforcer, because I want him to tap out of that life gain spell where he can gain 7 life by sacking the Enforcer. Now that he no longer has access to 2 mana, one of which is black, I'm going to Galv Blast, and hopefully I can get away with it, because I really don't want him gaining 7 life. And I'll press play. And he pings me for 1. Okay. I basic land cycling, and I cast a Fissure, returning the Blade. There's the Star. There's the Dispute. And the turn's back to me. I'll play the Blade. I'll equip the Blade to my Fissure. Honorary Hawk in this circumstance. And he chooses to sacrifice 3 artifacts to kill it. This is what I mean sometimes about like the equipment games, you know, that you can play with this deck. And I get in for 4. The opponent disputes, plays a Gixian Invader. I go Synth into Swift Spear, and I'll pause here. So the Swift Spear is actually fairly relevant here, because he's at 9 and I have this Galv Blast. So if he can have some form of interaction, the Haste and Prowess should be just enough to kill him. And I press play. Blast. To equip. Equipping there because of Galv Blast. I blast him down to 5. And this is exactly 5. That is because the Greatsword will tap the Gixian Infiltrator and put a +1/+1 counter on my Swift Spear. Alright, that was game 3 of the second match. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with one final match for you. Okay, have a good one. See you again soon. And we're back for the final match of this league. This was against Bogles, and let's check out our opening hand. So, unfortunately, I can't keep this. The Boros Garrison plus Plains is too risky. If that's my only land, it means that I'm not going to play something until turn 3. So I mulligan. And this has the same problem. But I'm not going to multiply to try and escape it. I'm just going to hope I draw another untapped land in between my turn and my opponent's next turn. Alright, and I'll press play. Our opponent leads on a forest into a growth. I lead with Plains. I got lucky with that Furnace draw. Then there's a Scout. I play a Furnace into a Fist. And there's an Ethereal Armor into a Greatsword and a Bounce Land. And there's another growth. So I'll pause here. So as you can see, our opponent is missing land drops. And that's one of the issues with Bogles. They typically will mulligan a lot to try and get a hand that is very quick and powerful. But the problem is that will kind of puts pressure on them to keep one-landers and try and dig with abundant growth. Similar to Kadoltha Red, where you would keep a one-lander with a synthesizer in it to try and hit that second land. And unfortunately for our opponent, it didn't work out here with the double abundant growth keep. Alright, and here he is getting in for 4. Right now, we have the same clock if I equip the greatsword. Alright, I'll just press play here. Ginger Brew, equipped up, and gets in for 2. It's nice to have an evasive creature now. And he plays a companion. I equip, and get in for 5 with the Ginger Brute, unblockable. Our opponent goes Growth. And our opponent goes Rancor. That's important. Now he has Trample. The Trump plan won't work. I take 9. I blast him, and that should be lethal. And it looks like our opponent agrees that it is lethal. And that was game 1. Alright, and I'll see you again for game 2. And we're back with game 2 of the final match of this video. And it looks like I took out my shamans. Not my shamans, my swift spears and my blades. And my journeys for some end the festivities, electricity, and 3 enchantment wipe spells. Leave no trace and patrician scorn. Okay, let's check out my opening hand now. That was 2 flooded. That was not enough land. And so I'm now on this. Not very good, but it does have a synth and a Skyfisher. Let's see if I can get there, and I'll press play. He leads on Gladecover Scout, and I cast my bridge, or I play my bridge. There's a Growth into a lifelink. So here I'd like to draw End the Festivities. I play a Barbed Batterfist into a Spirited Companion. Really want to draw End the Festivities now. Unfortunately, that's another land. I try to hit it, I miss, and there's my Fisher, returning the Batterfist, so I can get in for 2. There's Growth, there's Armor, and now it's looking like I'm pretty much out of this game. I go Batterfist, I equip, I try and get in for 3. He's at 25 though, so just reducing his life gain by a bit. There's Dust to Dust on my lands. I get a Plains in response. I chump. He gains 6. I draw another land. So it's looking like I lost this one. And there's the Armadillo Cloak, so I am in fact dead. Although I guess I try and find a Leave No Trace. But it's another land, so I concede. Alright, that was the game 2, and I will see you for game 3. We are back for the final game of this video. Let's see how I drew. Couldn't keep that, just Boris Garrison, but it's looking like I'm going with the bridge. And there's the Scout. I kept this because of Leave No Trace. And there's a good draw, Bar Batterfist, so that's nice. He immediately gut shots it. Good draw. Into Growth, into Armor, so we have ourselves a game. So I play a Core Skyfisher, I return the Batterfist, and I bounce the Barons. And let's see what I do here. He lands the Mask. I do a Bluff block, so he doesn't suspect the Leave No Trace, hopefully. And then I cast the Batterfist, and I don't attack suspiciously. And he goes Cloak, attacks, great play for me, because I can just get all of his enchantments and his Scout. Another Leave No Trace, so it's looking like I'm going to run away with this one. And there's 6. Plays a Plains into a Companion, but I have the Scav Blast and this Trace. So I tap it, and he's dead next turn. He goes for a Cloak, and I blast, and that's the game. Alright, and that was game 3. I hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Alright, have a good one.